Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to close today, I think appropriately after we've been speaking for the last, 40 minutes or so with Martin about networking, with a tribute to, I think, one of the best networkers I've ever met. And his name is Pieter Kool. He passed away last week. He was a resident of Mississauga. He was born in the Netherlands in 1941 during World War II and came to Canada after serving with the Royal Netherlands Air Force in the 1960s, arriving first in Montreal and then coming to Toronto and then marrying his long-term wife and settling in Mississauga, where they raised their three daughters. I met Pieter about 20 years ago, not quite, when I was chairman of the Mississauga City Summit. And he got very involved in some of the summit task force. And he was a real community organizer and a passionate community activist. He was involved in the Sheridan Homelands Ratepayers organization. Because of that, he therefore got involved in the Mississauga City Summit. He was passionate about building community, about strengthening our community, about post-secondary education, about having thriving urban, semi-urban environments where we could get together and shop and meet our neighbors and create a stronger community. He then invited me to speak at his Rotary Club. He was very involved in Rotary, and he invited me to speak on several occasions to his Rotary organization. First on the Mississauga City Summit, and then on networking, which I was doing some work on. And then he was one of the people that persuaded me to join the Mississauga Arts Council and ultimately become president of the Mississauga Arts Council. He was very involved in the Mississauga Arts Council, and more importantly, in the wider Mississauga arts community. He was on the board and I think actually chaired the Mississauga Symphony for a while. And encouraged me on a very regular basis to come out to symphony events. I think on a every time I met him or interacted with him or somehow bumped into him, he would ask me to come to the symphony and support the symphony, which I was pleased to do on numerous occasions. He introduced me to the conductor. We had breakfast together at some different functions. Pieter, the conductor, and myself. He was always interested in the arts, but more than it was the arts, it was that it brought the community together. I then was surprised one summer at church, the church I go to, Pieter showed up. It was because our church and his church decided to have summer services together. And we ended up sitting together and singing songs together and enjoying worship together, which added another flavor to our interactions. He then invited me to lobster fests that the Rotary put on and would introduce me around, and then would invite me. I think he was in charge of entertainment at the Rotary Rib Fest, and he invited me to host up on the stage some of those talent shows, entertainment celebrations that they had at the Rib Fest. He was wonderful to me, but I was probably one of dozens of people he was wonderful to, always getting us involved, always encouraging us to get more involved, supporting us when we did get involved, and introducing us to other people. I ran for mayor of Mississauga this past year. Pieter was one of my earliest and best supporters. I remember him stopping by my house, picking up a bunch of signs, picking up some literature, taking it home, and knocking, he said, on every door on his street. And I got some of the best votes in his neighborhood. He was passionate about the community, about the election, about some of the topics. He came on my radio show with another member of the Marionette, which is the Mississauga Ratepayers organization, to do a show on taxes, property taxes, and why he thought that property taxes were excessive, and why he thought that the city government in Mississauga was publishing tax increase statistics that were wrong and misleading. He then came on my show and gave me a endorsement, which I was extremely honored to have from him. He brought me again to another lobster fest, I'm sorry, and said the best way for you to meet people is to go out and sell the raffle tickets. And so he got me a job selling the raffle tickets, and he was right. I went around, sold a whole bunch of raffle tickets, and had the opportunity to introduce myself and my candidacy for mayor. And then after he went and introduced me around, he knew almost everyone in the whole room. So he was a wonderful gentleman. And his his daughters, Andrea and Kathy, probably knew some of the interactions he had. They actually, at the memorial service, talked about how he was always trying to persuade them to go out to symphony and other artistic events. But I wonder if they knew, or if everyone knew, how involved he actually got in the community, how supportive he was of people. And again, I'm probably only one of dozens of people, if not more, that he was incredibly supportive of. And I was honored to know him, to get his support, to get his ideas and suggestions, because he was always good with suggestions. And he went out of his way. It turns out, I guess, I didn't realize it, that he was quite sick with his cancer. When I sent him an email when I was moving last fall and asked if he could help me donate some used books to the Mississauga Symphony used book sale because they had closed out their donation time period. And he went out of the way to email with people in the Mississauga Symphony twice to arrange that I could donate those books after hours and after the fact. And he did that when he was sick, very sick. He was an amazing man, an amazing networker. He cared about his community. He cared about getting people together. He cared about the arts. He cared about worshiping God. He was one of those individuals that makes cities great. And it's a tragedy, tragic for our city that we've lost such a great individual. Obviously, far more for his family, but just from my standpoint and from our city's standpoint and from our community standpoint, he was a great example of the individuals that make communities, neighborhoods, make neighbors, friends, make cities wonderful. And I'm thinking of another friend of mine who's very involved in service organizations. And his comment at one point in time to me was the biggest problem we have in our cities today is we need to have more community in our communities. Pieter Kool put community, put neighbors, put friends, friendships into our communities and culture, arts. And I think that was just spectacular of him. And I'll miss him deeply, as will Mississauga, as will, of course, his family. And so tonight, I want to pay tribute to Pieter Kool, the best networker I ever met, and an example to all of us of people that can make their cities better, their communities better. Thanks. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videos are on my website, briancrombie.com. Pieter Kool, we'll miss you. Good night, everybody.